everyone, welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new to my channel, welcome. But for those of you who have been here before, thank you for returning. And if you're watching on Facebook or elsewhere, thanks for popping in. Anyway, in this video today, I wanted to talk about something that's kind of near and dear to my heart. And it's something that I've realized over the last year or so, at least in my own career path, in my own career journey as a woman, that I really haven't been the best advocate for myself. I know, right? It sounds like a really weird thing to talk about, at least professionally. Before I dive in on that and give you my thoughts about why that is, I want to talk about just in general how people are kind of socially conditioned to talk about themselves, and what's socially acceptable for one group of people may not necessarily be socially acceptable for another group. So I don't want to turn this into a man versus woman kind of debate or situation, but I can only speak from my cis woman experience, meaning that I was born biologically as a woman and I identify as a woman still. In a lot of companies, women find themselves not equitable to men. What does that mean? I think we've all heard different stories about Lean In from Sheryl Sandberg and Brotopia and all these new wonderful books that talk about the experience of being a woman in business or a woman in the workplace and showing up and having a seat at the table. This metaphorical table is really a place where you have a voice and you're heard, and it could be a decision-making table. It could just be your round table for, your team meetings where you exchange ideas, thoughts, updates, and state of the business, that type of thing. Whatever your metaphorical table is, having a seat at that table means that you are heard and you have earned or you deserve that spot at that table, regardless of who you are. So, going back to how social conditioning plays into that, I think, and there's research to back this up, but I'm going to say I think, just because this is based off of my own opinion and interpretation of that data, that women are more socially conditioned to not step up or not to cross that line, to not be loud and bold and boisterous and obnoxious, as some people might even call it, because it calls a certain type of attention to oneself. Growing up, for example, I was always shy, for one, so I felt socially awkward when I had to share information or present information in front of a large group of people. I actually did a video a couple years ago talking about how to get over nerves, and I actually gave some pretty funny examples of me in school running off stage and getting being just absolutely terrified of speaking in front of people and performing and so on and so forth. But as I've gotten older, and it's been quite a few years since high school, many years in fact, I'm obviously not the same person as I was back then, thank goodness, because that person was very shy, insecure, didn't know who she was. And, I'm almost 30 now, and I know who I am, and I'm proud of who I am. And I feel as though this confidence factor that you have within yourself doesn't really mature until you get to a certain age or you've reached a certain level of experience in your life, and that varies per person. For me, I've come into my own, and I've found this confidence within myself, and I'll do another video on that later because there's a lot that I could talk on there and I don't really want to deviate away from the whole talk of this video anyway. But there's this confidence that I have within myself, and I think for women there is this really tough balance and equilibrium of being confident and adept and recognized as such versus being overbearing and obnoxious and boisterous and that kind of persona or those characteristics in a narrow-minded way of thinking. For those who are not necessarily outgoing and outspoken or vocal even, those types of things, and being able to talk about oneself in a collected and informational and effective way, then you kind of get looked over because you don't have that metaphorical seat at the table. You're not actually sharing because maybe it's just not your thing. Maybe you feel like you just can't be yourself at that table because people are talking over you, or you just have social anxiety talking in front of other people. Me. It's because I'm totally an introvert. You wouldn't be able to tell with how I run meetings or how I interact with people, but it's because I've had to learn to pull myself out of this introverted mindset and just taking every ounce of energy I have and becoming more forthcoming and vocal and loud about things. And it's a skill that I really had to develop, and I don't think that's the necessary solution for everyone. I don't think that we all have to do that in order to succeed. We do have to advocate for ourselves though, and learning how to do that in an effective way means the world of difference in your career. So that's what I wanted to talk about, but I wanted to preface in talking about some of the social barriers that create issues and problems, just that kind of thing. I wanted to preface with that. So, what does it mean to advocate for yourself in the career-minded, in a corporate setting, or in a career path, or just in general? Obviously the focus is more career and professional environment, so that's what I'm going to be talking to mostly, but I'm happy to do more videos, as I said before, about building confidence and things like that, if that's something you're interested in. If it is, leave me a comment below and just let me know. I'd be happy to do that. Anyway, so advocating for oneself. What does it mean to be an advocate? I think that's a really good thing to define first. I think of advocacy as stepping up and making sure that your point of view is heard, or your voice is heard, your unique situation is observed, is recognized, is acknowledged. And to take it one step further, advocacy means that you're fighting for that, not only just to be heard, but to be a catalyst for change for whatever purpose it may fill. But advocacy is kind of this whole proponent of change. You're fighting for that change. You're not just vocalizing some of the issues. You're offering solutions and saying, hey, wait a minute. That solution works for this group of people, but this group of people over here are annihilated and or not included in that decision, or there's an adverse effect here on these people or on this person, whatever. That's kind of what advocacy kind of means to me. So how do you do that for yourself? That's a big thing, because again, women tend to be socially conditioned to not really advocate for oneself in a professional environment, with fear of being ostracized, excluded, being seen as aggressive, over assertive. Bitchy is probably the right term for it. I've been called that many times by some coworkers. Bossy, HBIC is another term that I really hate, but it's used a lot. And for those of you who are not familiar with what that term means, it's head bitch in charge. If you're a boss lady, that automatically makes you a bitch. That's a double standard, because if you have a man who's bossy and assertive, he is labeled as assertive, and it's celebrated that he acts that way. But if a woman is that way, no, she can't. She's not nice. She's taking it way too far. Nobody likes her. She's a little, over the top. Those kinds of things. So advocating for yourself while being authentic to yourself is important. And breaking through glass ceilings and stereotypes are another challenging aspect to it all. But at the end of the day, you still have to be authentic to who you are inside. I've realized that when I look at my career and where I want to go next, what career path I want to take, or if I want to be promoted, what kind of role would be fulfilling for me, what responsibilities can I handle, am I capable of, do I want to handle, am I equipped for, do I have the skill sets, and things like that. And I look through my history, my professional experience, my not so professional experiences, and realize that there are a lot of skills and a lot of experiences that I don't even talk about in the workplace or haven't even been brought to light even on my resume. And it's because we're told that those types of experiences may not be worthwhile mentioning. You know, volunteer experience can always be a great thing, but we often overlook those things because, hey, we're gloating or we're bragging about these experiences or how awesome we are doing volunteer work, when that's really not the case. It's just a highlighted experience. The way I like to think of it is with an objective lens. So what that means is you take a look at every single project or every single experience you've had, be it work experience, volunteering for a one-day event, whatever it is. All of these experiences add up. And although you can't have everything on your resume, you can effectively engage an audience and advocate for yourselves using that information in a cover letter, in a conversation with your boss, when you're networking. You know, if something brings up a memory of you working on this project or doing something in particular that maybe you haven't discussed before in the open, then there's your opportunity. It's not bragging. It's making a connection. It's stating an objective fact. I did X. And if it so happened that you had a major milestone or achievement around that, then I did X, and you know, it was really fulfilling for me because we generated X amount of revenue, or we drove our engagement by X%, or we were able to stay within X amount of budget and still deliver an amazing product. Whatever it is, it doesn't even have to be that specific. But if there is something really cool that you did, it's not bragging if you're objective. What comes off as bragging though, and boisterous, is if you're overconfident. For women, that's a hard thing. Women can easily be called braggers if we even just say, hey, I did that. Not the man next to me or not someone else or we as a team didn't do that, but I did it. And that's okay. I own that. I will personally put my own spin, my own pronoun of I on something if I know I was the one who led on that initiative. I give credit where it's due because we have to do that. But if I conceptualized and I put together the strategy and I led my team on something, and I own that piece of that. So when you look at your experiences and you're talking about them and being objective, it's fine. You know, I did X. Okay, great. Why does this matter to this conversation? That's up to you on how you want to connect it. We all can be conversationalists, and that's not a big deal. I think the most effective way to deliver something like that is through that eye or lens of objectiveness or objectivity. I can't talk today. I feel like women don't brag enough about the right kinds of things. I feel like we're conditioned to brag about or things that aren't as meaningful because that's just how society is. You know, 50 years ago, we probably would have bragged about, and we still do this today. I see women doing this all the time, and I've been guilty of it. Oh, look at my fancy new handbag. You know, it only cost $500, but I got it on sale for $300. Oh, isn't that exciting? Or I just went on vacation to blah, blah, blah. Or yeah, I just got my hair done. Doesn't it look awesome? My hair grows like 14 inches a year. Okay, so we don't, obviously those types of conversations could be meaningful for some people, but you know, we're allowed to brag. We're allowed to state that we were successful and that we did some amazing things. And to give you an example of that, I went through the last 15 years of actual experience that I have in writing and with content, because I create content and I'm in marketing, as I mentioned before. So in kind of looking at it, at my experience and looking at ways to level myself up, I realized that I wasn't actually talking about myself in the most effective way. I think women, when it comes to resumes and interviews and things like that, we look at tactical experience and say, oh, well, I don't have 5 or 6 years in this particular role or this particular job function. But then when you look back on all the experiences you've had throughout the years, the truth is you probably do. And I realized that in my own self recently. So I'm just going to read off some notes, and you know what? If it comes off as bragging, well, you know what? That's my prerogative. You can click off this video, right? But the point is I want to show an example of how you can easily change and modify your language to be confident, to advocate for yourself, but also be objective. So it's not coming off as overzealous. When I'm talking about my personal value propositions and what I bring to a company, here's where I add value. I am a published writer with over 14 years of editorial experience. I've been both a copy and spread editor of a print news publication. My work has been published in a national poetry anthology, and that first happened when I was 16 years old. I've been both a contributor and ghostwriter for historical societies and projects, starting at age 15. I also won a scholarship to attend an international leadership conference based on my contributions and design skills in writing. I've been a blogger and content producer for 15 years, more notably with video production over the last 9 years. I've been a consultant to emerging entrepreneurs seeking to build out their own businesses, from sole proprietorships to private corporations, advising founding members on mission strategy and boardroom negotiations and structure, providing key business formation strategies, and helping them to identify and develop multifunctional business strategies around marketing, customer relations, contracts, and customer acquisition. And I also have sales experience. So those are just some of the things that I've written out that I realized that all these experiences throughout my life, so even high school, yes, because that's relevant, because I learned some valuable skills in high school, and don't discount that, because I was driven and I was motivated, and I still use those skills today. So yes, they are relevant. So anyway, those skills, I do have all those skills, and I can confidently write that on my resume. And I wasn't bragging. I was stating facts. I was objective. I didn't insert an opinion. They were merely things that I had done. That's, I think, the best way to advocate for yourself from an objective lens, where no one can get their panties in a twist about you advocating for yourself. Because if they say that you are bragging or that you were subjective, if that comes off as bragging to anyone, I question why. I wasn't sitting there saying I was so awesome and I did this because of XYZ. No. I stated objective facts, no opinions, and that is my true experience, and it is extraordinary for someone of my age to have that level of experience, but that's where my value comes from, and that's my value proposition, and I'm able to confidently go into an interview or submit a resume or do any of those things knowing my worth, because of those experiences, and not discounting them or letting other people tell me that I don't have the experience they're looking for, when in fact I do. I just need to frame it and explain to them in a better articulated way that I do have that experience. So as you think about the next step you want to take, if you want to apply for a job, if you're looking to get promoted, if you're looking for your first job, if you're looking to join a board of directors, or I don't know, whatever it is that you're seeking to do and how this video may help you, and you're able to apply it and just kind of make a list. What I did was I sat there with a notebook and pen and just wrote down kind of all my random experiences over the last however many years, as little as they were, and I realized, you know what? I'm pretty badass. Now, I don't recommend saying that in such words, but your objective, factual statements will do all that explaining for you. I hope this is helpful, tactical advice, and let me know if you have any questions, or again, if you want to see a video about that personal confidence piece down in the comments below. I'm signing off, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. See you later. Bye!